Since mankind's earliest writings, creatures with similar abilities are mentioned. In Buddhism, predators are said to desperately wander the earth in constant search of food and water. They are believed to be the souls of the false, corrupted, compulsive, deceitful, jealous, or the greedy. Because of this, their karma leaves them afflicted with an insatiable hunger for a particular substance or object, usually feces or corpses. Predators are invisible to the human eye. Some say they can be seen by humans in certain mental states. They are described as human-like with sunken, mummified skin, narrow limbs, gigantic swollen bellies and long thin necks. Japanese art depicts them as having very small mouths. They are sometimes shown licking up spilt water in temples, and sometimes they are accompanied by demons. Like the jinn in Islam, they dwell in waste and deserted places of the earth, though this varies depending on their past karma. In Thai folklore, they are described as being very tall. Predators are seen as little more than a nuisance to the living, however. Sometimes they can be dangerous, as some are thought to crave blood. Despite this, they are usually pitied on more than feared, and monks at some Buddhist monasteries leave offerings of food, money and flowers for them. In demonology and mythology, the incubus and its female counterpart, the succubus, were thought to be evil spirits that harass and sometimes even rape sleeping men and women. Contact with these demons would usually lead to deterioration of health and sometimes even death. One of the earliest mentions of an incubus comes from Mesopotamia on the Sumerian kings list. Gilgamesh's father is listed as Lilu. It is said that Lilu disturbs and seduces women in their sleep, while Lilitu is a female demon that appears to men in their erotic dreams. A translation of the Sumerian writings by Stephen Herbert Langdon in 1864 reads, "The wicked Atuku who slaves men alive on the plain, the wicked Alu who covers men like a garment, the wicked Emitu, the wicked Galu who bind the body, the wicked Lam, the Lamia who cause death in the body, the Lilu who wanders in the plain. They have come nigh unto a suffering man on the outside. They have brought about a painful malady in his body. The curse of evil has come to his body. The evil goblin they have placed in his body. An evil bane has come into his body. Evil poison they have placed in his body. An evil malediction has come into his parts. Evil and trouble they have placed in his body. Poison and taint they have placed into his body. They have produced evil. Evil being, evil face, evil mouth, evil tongue, sorcery, venom, slaver, wicked machinations, which are produced in the body of a sick man." Namtar is sometimes called Naturu. He is a hellish minor deity from Mesopotamian mythology. He is a god of death and messenger of An. Namtar was the son of Enlil and Ereshkigal. Before his birth, his father raped the goddess Ninlil. Namtar was thought by some to be a spirit of fate. He is considered to be responsible for diseases and pests. He was once said to have commanded 60 diseases in the form of demons. These diseases could penetrate different parts of the human body. Offerings to him were made to prevent such illnesses. mare or a nightmare is an evil spirit, sometimes goblin-like in appearance in Germanic folklore. It sits on people's chests while they sleep. They are thought to be responsible for nightmares. Zoroastrianism is considered by many to be responsible for influencing many religions, including Judaism, Christianity and Islam. Like Christianity, Judaism and Islam, Zoroastrianism teaches there is only one God. Zoroastrianism prophet Zoroaster lived in eastern Iran sometime around 1500 BC. By the age of 30 he was preaching, telling his followers there is only one God, and his name was Zara, meaning wise lord. His followers spread throughout Rhisis, Elam, Babylon, Media, Sardis and Armenia. Zoroastrianism talks of one God, heaven, hell and free will. It also talks of the Deva of false gods that in later Zoroastrianism become demonic in nature. The word Devasnaya literally means one who sacrifices to the Devas. The Deva worshipping priest debated frequently with Zoroaster, but failed to persuade him to worship the Deva. Zoroaster was murdered because of his opposition to the Devas. In the Gathas, Devas are considered as being capable of discerning truth. A primary collection of sacred texts from the ancient religion Zoroastrianism known as the Avesta claims the final saviour of the world, Sashent, is prophesied to be born to a virgin impregnated by a seed of Zoroaster while bathing in a lake. "30 years before the decisive final battle, a maiden named Eridat Fedri, meaning victorious helper, whose nickname is Bodymaker, will enter the lake in Yasht. This lake can save her. Sitting in the water, the girl who has not been associated with men will receive victorious knowledge. Her son, when he is born, will not know nourishment from his mother. His body will be sun-like, and the royal glory of the Verena will be with him. Then for the next 57 years he will subsist on vegetables only, then only water, and then the final 10 years on only spiritual food." According to a story preserved in the Vindedad, not long after Ori Mazda had created the world, Angramanyu unleashed an innumerable sickness upon it. In response, Ori Madna requested Manfur Spenta, Shirasa and Ahriman to find cures for them, promising each that he would reward them with Dharma Afriti. With Ahriman's assistance, Ori Mazda then brought up 10,000 plants to the earth, so providing Fridiana with the means to cure the world of all the illnesses. Fridiana was an Iranian mythological king in Persian mythology. He is also known as Phredon and a hero for Pravina. He is known as an emblem of victory, justice and generosity in Persian literature. Zahak in the text of the Avesta is considered to be the son of Angra Mainyu and the foe of Ara Mazda. Zahak faced a revolution against him when he tried to consolidate his rule by conserving an assembly of leading men of his kingdom into signing a document testifying his righteousness, so that no one could have any excuse for rebellion. One man spoke out against him. He was a blacksmith named Kava. Before the assembly, Kava explained how Zahak's minions had murdered 17 of his 18 sons, so Zahak may feed his snakes' lusts for human brains. The last son had been imprisoned, but he was still alive. Zahak tried to be merciful and freed Kava's son, but when he ended the document attesting to Zahak's justice to Kava to sign the document, Kava tore up the document and left the court and raised a blacksmith's apron as a standard of rebellion. He proclaimed himself in support of Feridun as ruler. Many people followed Kava to the Alborz mountains, where Feridun was living. He was said to be a young man, and he agreed to lead people against Zahak. He had a mace made for him with a head of an ox, and his brothers and followers went forth to fight against Zahak. By the time they got to Zahak, he had already fled and left the capital, and it fell to Feridun with very small resistance. Feridun eventually freed all Zahak's prisoners. Zahak was not quite finished. He knew the capital was strongly against him. He sneaked into his own palace as a spy, and he attempted to assassinate 2 prisoners that were freed. Feridun struck Zahak down with his ox-head mace, but did not kill him. An angel advised Feridun to imprison him in the cave underneath Mount Darmivad, binding him with a lion's pelt tied to his nails and fixed to the walls of the cavern to ensure that he will remain there until the end of the world. Zahak is known to Iranian folklore as Azi Dazaki. The word Azi is thought to be distantly related to the Greek word Omphis, the Latin word Angus, and the Russian and Old Slovakian Yak, all meaning snake. In the final battle with evil, Osiris, Iron Man and Atar will melt the metal in the hills and mountains, and it will beat upon the earth like a river. It is prophesied that Ora Mazda will triumph, and his agent Salshent will resurrect the dead, whose bodies will be restored to eternal perfection, as will the world. The souls will be cleansed and reunited with God, and then time will end, and Asha and immortality will therefore be everlasting. Since mankind's earliest writings, creatures with similar abilities are mentioned. In Buddhism, pretas are said to desperately wander the earth in constant search of food and water. They are In demonology and mythology, the incubus and its female counterpart, the succubus, were thought to be evil spirits that harass and sometimes even rape sleeping men and women. Contact with these demons would usually lead to deterioration of health, believed to be the souls of the false, corrupted, compulsive, deceitful, jealous, or the greedy. Because of this, their karma leaves them afflicted with an insatiable hunger for a particular substance or object, usually feces or corpses. Pretas are invisible to the human eye. Some say they can be seen by humans in certain men, though this varies depending on their past karma. In Thai folklore, they are described as being very tall. Pretas are seen as little more than a nuisance to the living, however. Sometimes they can be dangerous, as some are thought to crave blood. Despite this, they are usually pitied on more than feared, and monks at some Buddhist monasteries leave offerings of food, money and flowers for them. Mental states. They are described as human-like with sunken, mummified skin, narrow limbs, gigantic swollen bellies, and long thin necks. Japanese art depicts them as having very small mouths. They are sometimes shown licking up spilt water in temples, and sometimes they are accompanied by demons. Like the jinn in Islam, they dwell in waste and deserted places of the earth.